Hello, and welcome to the Delusional Boyfriend Book Club. My name is Courtney.
I'm Phoebe.
And we'll be your hosts today. And today we're talking about our romance novel of the month, which is Solitary Sinners by Elle Thorpe. And it's our second book that she's written and one of 12 of hers that we're reading this year. Phoebe, how have you been?
Good.
It's so good to have you.
Thanks for having me.
I feel like we've hung out more this week than we've hung out in forever.
I think like 4 out of 7 of the days this week.
Yeah. RuPaul's Drag Race night is my new favorite hobby that we've ingrained into our schedule. But volleyball wasn't bad either.
I love volleyball. I'm sad it's almost over.
I am glad that I got to sub and that I don't actually have to commit to the whole thing. Okay, so let's see here. Do you want to give us our recap for the last book?
Yeah.
And then we can kind of be refreshed on everything that's going on and who we're talking about.
Yes. Okay, so book 1 was Locked Up Liars. We covered it last month, so if you haven't read that yet or you haven't listened to the episode, go back. It's on our feed. We've met the main characters, May, who is going to be our female main character, Heath, Liam, and Ro. Jayla is May's sister. She's the one that was killed in the first book, so we are also trying to solve her murder. Heath was arrested for her murder in the first book, so that's obviously very important. He ends up in the prison. Liam becomes his lawyer, and Ro is a prison guard at the prison. There's sexual tension everywhere you look, everywhere you see. Liam and May have hooked up at this point, but that's it. No action anywhere else. But that is going to change in this book, which is very exciting. We've got Tori and Will. Those are May's best friends. They're married. And then Boston is Jayla's partner at the police force because she's a police agent. I think that's everything that's important character-wise,
Those
right?
are all the key characters, except for there is a strip club owner, Eve, but she just
she just makes an appearance. But if you want to know more about Eve, you can read her book. It's called Evil Enemy, and it's very good. The 4th book in that series comes out next week. So Heath is in the prison. May takes a job as the teacher at the prison because she wants to talk to Heath. When we ended the last book, a prison riot began. There was a fire. DeWitt was trying to sexually assault May, and Vincent, her favorite student, came in, saved the day by killing DeWitt, slitting his throat, which, let me remind you, is how Jayla dies. We find out that he is this feared figure called Scythe that we've heard about, and he could possibly have been the killer of her sister. May is trapped on the other side of the fire with Vincent, and that's where we left off.
Yep. So jumping into book 2, we have Vincent and May together, and obviously she wants to trust Vincent because he's like her favorite student, but she has just discovered that he is also this gang member, Scythe, who everyone's been talking about, who has
like a contract killer.
Who has an MO of cutting people's throats. So exactly.
And so she's like, oh my God, he might have been the person that killed my sister.
And she straight up asks him.
And he says, how did she die? To which May says, her throat was slit. And he says, sounds like me.
Which she takes. So going into book 2, she is convinced like he is the killer.
Yeah, she's walking around the prison with this man who killed her sister, but also just saved her life. And she's trying to be cool in this emergency situation, but also she's freaking out.
She's freaking out. She's like, I know I'm not supposed to go to a second location if I'm ever in trouble. And this man is trying to take me from this room that's kind of on fire into another room. And I don't know if I should go with him or not. But we need to kind of meet up with the other characters and get out of this prison riot.
And she doesn't know. He clearly has a plan. He's very, okay, now we're going to go to the kitchen. And she's like, why? He goes, because it's where the knives are and I want to play with them. And so then she's super freaked out and they get to the kitchen and everyone's afraid of him because they see his Scythe birthmark because he's been hiding it. And so everybody knows not to mess with Scythe. So they're like, oh, you're good. The kitchen's yours. And he finds the knife he's looking for. And then he locks May in a closet.
And he actually
leaves. And she doesn't know. She's freaking out. But we know, because we get to go into his POV for a chapter, that he's going to get Heath for May.
Yeah.
Because Heath is also his friend. They met they were in prison intake together, and he loves Heath. And so he's going to get his friend for May.
And they had walked by a room and heard him in a scuffle, and May tried to go in, and Vincent was like, there's nothing you can do to help him. You're going to make it worse.
I've got this. Yes. Yep. And so he goes and he gets Heath for her. So he comes back to the kitchen. May's freaking out, trying to bust down the door, and Heath opens the door, and it's like, they're back together.
I have to say, I know Vincent is not one of our love interests in this story, but everything about his personality, the way that he like will not let go of her arm, the way that he's like, he's so psycho, and I'm so into it. Like,
I know. You're gonna love. You are going to love Psychos. That's what the next series in this series is called, is St. View Psychos, and he's one of the main male characters.
I'm obsessed with his, like,
you're gonna love it.
His vibe.
So
he's like
good.
over controlling. He is really obsessed with where May's at and what she's doing, and he, in his weird mental breakdown that he's having, where he's flipping between these personalities, he's like, we're all supposed to be breaking out of the prison together. Like, they're all friends, and everybody's just like,
he
we're
has this
terrified.
plan that he hasn't told anybody about, which is he's going to get May, then he's going to get Keith, and then they're all going to escape the prison together. Except nobody knows about this plan but Vincent.
And everyone's very scared of him. So.
Yes, so everyone is trying not to step on his toes and go with the flow, except also not try to break the law any more than the law's already broken.
So then we have a character from another series by this author, Colt, who's been really badly injured in this. They do eventually, Vincent helps them get through like security, and they get Colt out. And then they see that like the whole fire squad's here. They're all ready to like break down the doors and stop the prison riot.
So they they take Colt out. Willa's Colt's mom.
Tori and Perry.
Perry's the nurse. So she goes out with Colt into the ambulance, and then Tori goes out as well. But May stays in the prison and goes with Vincent, and Vincent takes them all up to solitary.
Yep.
Because he knows that's where it will be quiet, so he can think about what he's going to do.
So this is where we get our first taste of action in this book, is that everyone's locked in solitary except for Vincent leaves the room again.
Vincent locks Ro, Heath, and May.
He does us a big favor.
In a solitary cell. He's like, you guys stay here. I'm locking the door. I'm going to deal with some stuff.
He's like, I'll be back. Don't get up to any funny business in here. Yeah. And then our characters, locked in solitary alone, finally have this really heated exchange. So May is in there with Ro, the prison guard, and Heath, the prisoner that they're trying to prove he's innocent of May's sister's murder.
And at this point, Ro still is not Team Heath.
No.
He wants to be, but he's fighting it so hard.
At this point, Ro has also not admitted to
having
May
feelings for May either.
That he has feelings.
But we know that he does. And this whole time when we're in Ro's point of view during the prison riot, we're learning that he's thinking, oh, not again. This can't be happening to me again. And so we're kind of getting an idea of why he's so resistant to like give into his feelings for May. And this book, I think, really is kind of Ro's book. You dive into his life, his backstory, why he is the way that he is, and like his romantic relationship with May is really like what builds this book. It's definitely his book.
It's absolutely his book. And it definitely, we get to see the most of Ro so far than we've got to see of him in the first book. So they're locked in the solitary prison room together, and May is like, wants to touch Heath, wants to kiss Heath, and Ro's like, not now, not in the middle of this prison riot. And she's just like, just let me have this. Let me have this one moment with him. And she kisses Heath, and Ro is like visibly aggravated. And you can tell from our point of view as the readers that he is jealous of both of them.
Yeah.
And Heath calls him out, and Heath says,
jealous.
Is it me that you want to kiss, or do you want to kiss her? Because if you want to kiss her, go ahead. I'd love to watch.
Yeah.
And he's like, wait, I never. And he's like, no, go ahead and do it, because we can all feel the tension coming off of you, and we know that you want to take part in this.
Just do it.
So he grabs May and he makes out with May. And at this point, he doesn't kiss Heath. No, he doesn't kiss Heath at this point.
Nothing happens with Heath yet.
But Heath is like egging them on, and Ro is like, what the fuck? So
they kiss, and then the SWAT team shows up to get May out, and Ro is in his uniform, but he doesn't have his access key. He gave it to Perry to open the doors to leave. And so he's like, I'm a prison guard. And they're like, where's your key? And he says, I'm in my uniform. They said, everyone in this prison is in a uniform at this point. Like, you have to stay until we can figure it out. So they take May out. Liam's out there dying of like, all my people are in there. What's going on? I don't understand. So May gets out. Liam's waiting outside. So they have their little reunion. And then we go back to Heath and Ro being locked in the cell. And there's so much tension.
So much tension. And do they kiss at this point?
No, they're about to kiss. And then they show up to take Ro out of there. I'm pretty sure.
I think that's what happens too. And they're like, Ro, it's okay. It's time for you to leave.
Yeah. So he's like, I think things will be different with Heath. And then he goes back to his old ways and does not have Heath's back.
Well, yes, because the SWAT team and the new warden at this prison is
so after the riot, there's a new prison warden. Mm-hmm. He's an important character.
And they send Heath to solitary, and Ro has an opportunity to say Heath was just helping the situation. He didn't do anything to ignite this riot.
But he does not.
But he was locked in a prison, in a cell with an officer, and they assume the worst. And Ro, in order to protect the fact that he is kind of building a friendship with May and Heath, he doesn't say like, oh no, give Heath special treatment. So Heath goes to solitary without much protest from Ro, and Heath definitely feels like that's a betrayal. Like he could have said something to get him out of his trouble.
Because he knows he was not involved.
No, but in Ro's mind, he is still suspicious that May and Heath might have orchestrated this to try to break him out.
Ro's very suspicious.
He gives that up like rather quickly after the riot ends, but in the moment, he's like, it is possible that Heath and May were trying to break him out.
He's still really suspicious of Heath and doesn't like him. But with the new warden comes short staffing and new prisoners.
The new prisoners.
And in the lot of new prisoners is Zai. And we find out that Zai is the father of Ro's child.
Yes.
That we've met in the first book. Ripley, who is the neighbor, that's actually Ro's adopted child. He was married to a nurse at his old prison that he worked at. And then when they got together, she was already pregnant with this man's baby. And then he got arrested for a burglary or something. And then he ended up in the prison. And when there was a prison riot, she was killed during the riot at his last prison. So this is all his backstory of why he doesn't want to get involved with May. Mm-hmm. Because he had this really tragic, his wife was killed. She had the baby and then she was killed in this prison riot, and he knows it was Zai, but there was no evidence, so he is not going to be kept in prison for that murder.
Yep.
And he knows it was him, and so he shows up at the prison with the new prisoners, and immediately his guys that come over with him like grab Ro and beat him up, and Heath breaks it up because he sees that Ro is getting like beaten, and he intervenes, and this is when the new warden shows up. And he sends all the prisoners back to solitary. So Heath just got out of solitary.
And he goes in for another week.
And he goes in for another week. And this is when he really gets upset with Ro, because he's like, I had your back. Yeah. And I'm still in solitary. But this time Ro does say, he was trying to help me.
Yeah.
And the warden says, I don't care.
Yeah, no special treatment for anybody. And Heath does take like a brief hiatus from working at the prison. So right when they get out of the riot, May goes to Liam. They have some spicy scenes, whatever.
Yeah, and Ro's like, that happens. And then Ro doesn't stop showing up for work.
Yeah, he doesn't go to work for like a week. And so May goes to Ro's house to try to figure out what's been going on with him.
Why are you going to work? Because she finds out he's about to get fired for not showing up.
Yep. So she goes to intervene, and she's like, hey, you need to go back to work or you're going to lose your job, and I need you there. Like, I started to depend on seeing you at work. I'd love to see you there. Please show back up. And he's like fishing at this cabin that he lives at, and he ends up taking her to go fish with him and telling her this entire backstory. Yep. So now she has an idea of why he's so reluctant to admit that he has feelings for her, why he's so reluctant to work with somebody he has feelings for, and why he was so out of it during the prison riot, because he's been there before, he's done that before, and he's lost somebody.
And after he lost his wife, he went really like bad, dark, and so he like had her mom take care of Ripley, and so he's not.
He has no custody over his child anymore.
He still has full custody, but he's not not custodying.
Yep. And then Zai, the prisoner who definitely killed this little kid's mom, he wants to get visitations with this kid, so he's trying to get back into his life.
His name is on the birth certificate.
Exactly. So now we've got May, who understands this backstory, and we've got Ro, who's going back to work, but he doesn't want to talk to May. He's trying to cut things off with May. When she came out to the cabin to visit that one time, they hooked up a little bit. He like fingered her, and then he cut it off. And he's like, we actually can't do this.
Yeah.
I can't lose another person that I love. He goes back to the prison, and she devises a plan where she's like, I'm not going to let him cut me out of his life. Instead, I'm going to go surprise him on his day off. And she brings these groceries, and then she has his adopted son come out to the house, and they all cook breakfast together, and they play catch together. And it's this very domestic bliss that both of them have missed out on. And we learn also that May cannot have her own children. And it doesn't seem like Ro wants to have any other kids after what he's gone through. So like we get this picture of if they could make it work.
Yeah, they have this family.
They could have this found family with this child. If Ro is willing to kind of defeat his depression and get back on the horse and try again
and just
happiness.
admit that it's okay, he can step back up and he can be Ripley's father.
He can be his father, and
He's
he can
so
fall in
cute.
love again, and he doesn't have to just like wallow in this loss forever and this grief forever. So after that like day of domestic bliss where they're all hanging out at the house, she's like, I've got one more surprise for you. We're gonna go watch a baseball game with Liam, because Liam and Ro are on a baseball team together. So she's like, well, let's all just go watch a game. It'll be fun. So
and it was fun.
Oh, it's so fun.
Yeah. So when we're there, we run into Tori and Will. They're also at a baseball game, and we find out that, you know, they're having a really hard time just because they have no time for each other. Will's working extra hours at the church. This is important.
Okay, so this interaction. So we've got our girl May, Ro, and Liam all at the baseball stadiums, which I thought was a little funny because I'm just like, Heath is literally in solitary. Like we've got one of this foursome is just sitting in a cell, and the other three are like having a great day at the ballpark. So I felt a little bad for Heath, but we've got this situation where the three of them are in the stands, and then her best friend and her best friend's husband stop by,
who are like super religious,
and the husband Will. There's this weird interaction at this point in time where I definitely noted Will in my suspect book, because Tori, the best friend, hugs everybody there, and she turns to her husband after she hugs Ro, and she's like, oh, I'm not just hugging a random man. This guy helped me in the prison riot. And that moment I clocked where I was like, oh, why is she like justifying who she's hugging? Mm-hmm. Maybe Will is a little bit different behind closed doors, that you would need to explain to your husband why you were hugging a stranger. So I was like, oh, maybe their dynamics not as clear to us as it is, to them. Maybe there's some secret stuff going on here. So the baseball game finishes up, and the boys are driving May back home, and things start getting super heated in the car.
Mm-hmm. Ro's driving, and Liam and May are in the back seat.
And Ro is like watching them in the rearview mirror, and basically they're putting a show on for him. And Liam's like, turn around, like, so you're reverse cowgirl on me, so you can look right in the mirror at Ro. Yeah. And they start going down a back alley.
And Ro's like, I have to pull over. I can't drive.
Ro is anymore. As like a pseudo police officer, he made a good choice here. The safe choice. So he pulls the car over, and Liam is fucking May in the back seat. They get done. And May looks at Ro in the mirror, and she's like, if you didn't finish, how do you want me? And so she gets out of the car. He bends her over the like back seat kind of. And then
she's like hands on the door jamb, I think.
Yeah, hands on the door jamb. And then Liam gets down beneath her and is eating her out while Ro is fucking her. And it is so hot.
Yeah, it's so good.
That was really right up my alley.
Yeah.
So then we also have May's dad, who has been diagnosed with cancer, and she's cut him out of her life. So we didn't know.
We just found out she gets a call like, your dad is dying, and she is so confused. Mm-hmm. And she finds out that him and Jayla had been in contact before Jayla died. She knew his diagnosis. And we also find out that he has a secret family.
Yes. So she shows up at his house to like get his deathbed confession on what he might know about Jayla, and he's already dead. And she talks to the butler, and the butler's like, hey, listen, I don't know anything exactly about Jayla's death, but I do know that your dad had a second family and that this woman he has been sleeping with for decades had many children by him, none of which he would accept paternity for. So he was your father was a bit suspicious that maybe that woman would kill off you and your sister in order for his estate when he dies to pass to her children upon a positive paternity test. So we do have yet another suspect here. Okay, if it wasn't Heath, who could it have been? We've got Boston, her partner, who we've kind of ruled out at this point.
And Boston, after the prison riot, we find out that Boston actually quit the police force.
He's done with the police force, and he has set up an anonymous tip line to try to help Jayla's case. So we're kind of starting to rule out Boston as a suspect. We've ruled out Heath as a suspect, but now we've got this mystery woman who...
What's her name? Angela?
Angela, and she had an affair with the victim's father. So we've got good grounds there. And then we are... I was starting to look at Will at this point because it just seems rather suspicious that these friends are involved with the story if they don't have a larger part in the story. And there seems to also be like just some unspoken things going on. So May and Liam had gone through Jayla's room and found a pregnancy test.
Yeah, which they were really hopeful that she was pregnant with somebody's baby and that person
could have been the suspect.
And then we find out
that it was Heath's baby.
It was Heath's baby, and she had an abortion.
Terminated the pregnancy.
Yeah, and so that just made his case even worse.
Yep.
So we find out that they've moved up Heath's trial.
But they did call, at that point when they found the pregnancy test, they called the best friend, Tori. May tried to ask Tori about it, and Tori was super weird about the pregnancy test. So that we start to get this like little bit of suspicion around these characters. Also in the first book, they were really present. In this book, they're much less present. So we've got some suspects on the list. And right after they find out that about the secret family and have, seen her dead father at this house, they get the call. Heath's trial is moving up. It's going to be in 2 days. They have 2 days to finish up their case and prove that, there is some doubt that this could have been Heath to the judge before the judge sentenced him to death. He's on, this is a death, what do you call it? Death penalty trial.
Yeah.
So we go have the characters trying to decide who's going to tell Heath that his case is being moved up.
Liam is like, I have to go try to figure out how I'm going to defend Heath. So Liam goes to the office. He's like, I'm locking in. I'll see you guys at the trial. He literally says, you're not going to see me.
Yeah.
I have work to do. I'll be at the office working as much as I can, taking naps. You'll see me at the trial. So Liam's kind of gone. May is like, I have to be the one to tell Heath that this is happening. And so Ro takes her into the prison to tell Heath because he's in solitary. And so Ro sneaks her in. It's the middle of the night. It's like 2 a.m. And because she can't get into solitary without Ro's pass, because she doesn't have like the
credentials.
Yes, the clearance to go that far into the prison. And so Ro gets her in, and he's in there, and her and Heath are having a moment, and Ro decides, I'm gonna let you guys have a moment. I'm gonna stand outside. I'll stand guard. And Heath and May finally hook up.
And also he says, like, no, Ro, if you go stand outside the door, it'll draw too much suspicion. Stay right in here with us. So Ro's in there.
Yeah, but then he does give them a moment. And then he comes back.
He definitely comes back.
Obviously.
And so like, very much so Heath is like kind of taking control of the situation with Ro and pushing it further. Then Ro is like, then Ro anticipated. So he's like, I want you here. I want you to watch.
Yes.
Him and May fuck for the first time. Heath and May, at this point in the story, have never had sex. They have made out.
Yeah, they just kissed like twice.
And then he got arrested.
Yeah.
So like, they have never been able to like consummate their love. So this is their moment to like actually get together before he maybe gets the death penalty and dies. This is their only moment. So they hook up and Ro re-enters the room. You're right. He does go out because he comes back in and he's like, the room smells like sex. And he like looks at both of them, and Heath like almost immediately gets down on his knees and is like, come over here.
Heath is like, there's all this sexual tension between Heath and Ro, and finally it's coming to a head, and Ro obviously has a hard-on because he was just like low-key
listening.
His girls sleeping with like this guy that he's interested in, but is in denial of it. And so he comes back in and Heath is like, give me that dick.
Yeah, Heath is like
I love it.
I would have expected from just like these characters that Ro would have been the one to get on his knees to blow Heath, and instead Heath is just like, come here, baby. Like,
I know.
stick it in my
So
mouth.
good.
It is so good. It's so
good.
spicy.
Yeah.
Like, Heath very much so wants Ro and knows that he wants Ro and is initiating it so that Ro can't kind of get out of it.
Because he knows Ro, there's this thing happening, and Ro's not going to act on it. And so he's like, I'm making this happen because it's a thing.
Oh my God, it's so spicy.
It's a good thing.
They did earlier in the book, there is a moment where Heath is where Ro is trying to apologize to Heath while they're like kind of working in the same area in the prison. And he gets him kind of into a closet in the kitchen and he like tries to explain himself.
Almost kiss.
And apologize. And Heath like whispers in his ear and he's just like, what do you really want to say to me? Like, because I think what you want is my dick in your mouth. Like, I think that you want something more of this. And Ro was like, no. So like Ro was not going to be the one to initiate at all. But we've had a scene with Ro thinking about Heath in the shower while he like jerks it. And like we have up until this moment where they finally get to do it while they're together with May in the solitary cell, we've seen Ro just like be kind of obsessing over Heath in the back of his mind. And by the time they're together, like the tension has really built and you really want these characters to get together. And
it's such a good scene.
It's such a
And then
Heath
Heath is blowing Ro, and then May is like masturbating
fingering
over
herself
it.
while she's watching. I love
every character.
Every character has like expressed their great joy in observing
of
the
watching
others.
Yes, I know.
Just
it's
like
awesome.
A bunch
I
of
love
cups.
it.
It's so cute. I'm just like, oh, they're so honest with each other. They're just like, I don't care.
No,
if
this is hot.
Yeah, I don't care if it's me or you doing the deed. Like, as long as I get to watch.
Yeah.
So very cute, very wholesome for a bunch of people who are
fucking each other in a solitary prison cell.
Yes, and I would say like on the level of suspending your disbelief, like you have to do a bit of suspension of disbelief here
because they're fucking each other in a solitary prison cell.
And you're like, okay, there's really no cameras. Like
that's
really,
not happening, but it's really fun when it's happening.
Like nobody is watching or concerned or like taking note. They're like, oh, we've been in here at least an hour. I'm just like, there's fucking no way in hell that a guy who just does this all happens after? No, this happens before the trial. So then after this hookup in the solitary prison cell, he goes to trial the next day.
Yeah, the next day is the trial. And Liam, it's obvious. We jump to Liam's POV for the trial. And so everybody's there and Liam is thinking, it's obvious, like, I'm not doing enough. They think he's guilty. And so Liam does this last ditch effort, like surprise witness to call Will to the stand.
Oh my God. So, and everyone kind of can see that
before this
happened,
losing. How suspicious of Will are you?
I was like, he was my only suspect.
You were like, that he's kind of weird.
I was just like, what is this vibe? Like, he was the only suspect I could see in the whole story. Yeah. But I couldn't find any reason why. Yeah.
So Will accuses him because of those nights off that he has. Those are the same nights that Jayla was no longer going to the gym and had all these hotel appointments on those same nights and the same hours. So he accuses Will of having an affair with Jayla.
Yep. And Will adamantly denies it. He's just like, no, I'm a man of God.
Do you think they were having an affair?
No, because I don't think that Jayla, so the theory that Liam comes up with is that Jayla was having sex with her best friend's husband right after her best friend had a baby, which I'm just like, Jayla would have to be a monster.
Well, Tori is May's best friend.
Yes, but they're all friends.
They're all friends.
And for one woman to have sex with another woman's husband while she's at home with the newborn is vile.
Yeah, I agree.
Vile.
So what do you think is happening?
So I don't think that's what's happening because I also don't think that there's this element of the story, which is that Heath fell asleep in May's bed and woke up in Jayla's bed with Jayla's dead body. So whoever killed Jayla also moved this massive man somehow.
No, he drunk woke up and went to the bathroom and then ended up in her room out of habit.
That's like
100% what happened. You don't think so? He didn't get moved.
In my head, I totally thought whoever killed this person also staged.
Oh, I didn't think
Heath
so.
being in there.
No,
you think he woke up on his
that
own?
person, I think if they knew Heath was there, they wouldn't have
done it there.
Yes, I think Heath woke up, like went to the bathroom in the middle of the night, and then drunk out of habit. Went into the wrong room because he dated J-Lo for so long.
You know more than me because you've read the story before, but I absolutely in my head was like, okay,
that's interesting. I've never thought that.
I was like, it makes more sense if it's Scythe or somebody who could have maybe like somebody who's a professional killer who could have maybe like moved Heath or drugged Heath.
Oh, interesting. No, I didn't.
Or done something.
That didn't cross my mind, but I don't think so.
Okay, well that's fine.
I think he just ended up there.
But it was that's one reason why I was like, well, it couldn't have been Will because it would take somebody more skilled at this kind of murder than Will is. Will is just like a suburban dad. Like he's not a trained killer. And anyway, so at this point I am like pretty sure it's not Will, and I'm pretty sure Will and J-Lo weren't having an affair. I don't like it. So I don't want it to be. With? Who do I think she's sleeping with? I think she's sleeping with a gang member. Like,
interesting.
I think because we've got our two, Liam, the lawyer, his older brother is part of a gang. We've met some of the gang members. We know about Vincent. And I'm like, if Jayla, the cop, was sleeping with a gang member or was close with somebody, maybe like an undercover cop who is like infiltrating one of the gangs, it has to be something like that. I don't think it can be Will. Like, maybe it is, but right now, second book in,
I'm just so interested. I can't have these thoughts. This is my third time. I know it happens, but...
And I'm, like, suspicious of Will. Something's wrong with Will.
No.
And he very much so could have been cheating on his wife. I just don't like the idea that J-Lo was hurting this other woman. Like, that just would really make me dislike this victim, and I feel like it's a weird thing for an author to do. Maybe there's a reason. Anyways, so we go to the trial. And they pull this out.
He's called Will to the stand. It's
Will
his last-ditch effort. Will's freaking out. May's freaking out because she didn't know this was going to happen. This is her best friend's husband.
Yep.
So, and then the jury goes, and they come back with a verdict really fast. Which, if you know anything about
true crime,
it's either a really good thing or a really bad thing. In a case when you were thinking it's not going our way, it's bad.
Yep. So they return with a guilty verdict, which means that Heath is going to be sentenced to death. And in a normal world, we all would be like, okay, there's so much time for appeals. We've got years for appeals.
Yes, but we're not in a normal world.
And they've set it out pretty clearly. May asked Liam, she's like, how long do we have? And he's like, best case scenario, 6 months. Worst case scenario, a few days. So in this fictional universe,
and then the judge comes in and she says, I'm expediting this.
Oh yeah, she's like, you
killed a cop. I'm expediting this. Like, we're going to move this as fast as we can. And that's how the book ends.
Yep. And so, no, that's not how the book ends. So they go back to the prison with Heath and Liam and Ro and May. All of them get back to the prison and are in a cell with Heath.
Yeah.
And then Ro loses it, and Ro goes, hit me.
Oh, does this happen at the end? Like, okay, I couldn't remember if that was the end of this or the beginning of the next book, and I didn't want to spoil
No, I listened.
Because it's a big spoiler.
It's a huge cliffhanger. So I did listen to the preview of the next book, and it picks up right there, but it doesn't, like, you know what's about to happen. So Ro they're all in this prison cell together. They're like, okay, you might have days before you get the lethal injection.
We can't let you die because you didn't do this.
Yes, but they're all kind of saying bye, kind of freaking out, and then Ro like flips the switch and he has a plan.
He's like, hit me. And Heath won't do it. And he's like, hit me, and Heath won't do it. And so then Liam, which poor Liam, this is like one of his best friends, starts wailing on his best friend because he's like, yep, we have to make this look real. And so they start beating Ro up.
And Heath is like, stop.
Yeah, Heath's freaking out. He's like, wants nothing to do with it. And they're like, you have to go. And so
they're like, he takes off his uniform and he's like, put on my officer's uniform and it will look like you beat me up and you ran out, but you have to escape. You have to get on the run because it's either this or watching you die. And he's like,
I'm not doing that. I'm not watching another person that I have feelings for die.
Yeah, and there has to be something I can do to fix this. And so he's like, Liam, keep hitting me. And Heath is like, no, you're going to kill him. He's like, I won't watch him beat you to death. And he's like, well, we won't watch you get the lethal injection.
No.
So take my shit, get out of the prison. And then there's like, I did listen to the preview for the next book, and that's basically where it ends, is that he has no choice but to either die in a short amount of time or have this prison breakout be the next thing on his record.
And they're basically, the thought process is, we have to get you out, and we have to solve this murder before they catch you. Because if you escape and they catch you, they're going to kill you immediately.
Yep.
And we have to figure out who is the real murderer so that you don't get killed.
It is like a real Sophie's choice here, because obviously all three of them going to prison for breaking out a prisoner is not a great situation.
It's not great.
But the worst situation obviously would be letting Heath die, knowing he wasn't a killer, and knowing that there was some last ditch effort they could have tried.
Yeah.
So they try, and that's where we're left.
Yeah.
Okay, so of all the spicy scenes in this book, which there's
a lot.
So many, it's like packed full of spice. What is your favorite spicy scene that happens?
The scene with Heath and Ro and May in the solitary cell.
Where
Heath and Ro filing.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
That was my second favorite.
Is your favorite the car scene?
My favorite the car scene. God damn, the car scene was so good.
And so good.
Also, finally, we have some like ass play.
A lot in this. Yeah, we didn't start to get into it.
We start to get into it, and in the car scene, like Liam is telling Ro to go there, and
Liam is like clearly the director of the team.
Oh yeah, Liam is the team leader here, and he's kind of like, also he really he's like a service top. Like he really enjoys everybody getting what they need and making sure that May is like provided for and satisfied and has every one of her fantasies met. So I really love that about him. He's just basically like, tell me what you like and I'll make sure that you have everything you could want. So I really love the car scene. I love any car scene, especially in like a manhwa. They illustrate them so hot, like, and I've had so much car sex, and it's
never that hot.
Never that hot.
Never.
Like,
it's never that hot.
If there is an element of getting caught, it's pretty hot. Like, there's some scenarios in which it's really hot, but for the most part, it's pretty cramped and like sketchy. But always in a story, like it's gonna be one of my favorites, just because. It's just more exotic, more erotic. Like, you're out in the open air. There's a chance of somebody seeing you.
Yes.
There's like...
It's like an anywhere but a bed.
Anywhere but a bed.
Yeah.
It's just like, honestly, I love to see anything anywhere outside of a bedroom. So I was super into that scene. I was also super into the fact that we're getting more exploratory, like, as far as what May is into. And then that we're introducing like multiple people in the dynamic. So I was super into that.
I'm so excited for the next book.
I'm so excited.
All four of them get together.
I need the foursome, because so far we've had the threesome in the prison was kind of more like twosomes and somebody watching. Yeah. And then the car scene is definitely, both of them are in on the action, but we have yet to have double penetration.
Yeah, it's coming.
And I'm like dying for that.
It's like etched in my mind. The first time it happens shortly into the new book. It's like while they're on the run. It's good.
I'm waiting to read the new book till next month.
Yeah,
so
that's gonna be a struggle.
It's gonna be a real struggle.
I'm also waiting, but I've read them before, obviously twice before. So this is my third time, but I'm holding myself over by listening to the audiobooks for the Save Your Strip series.
You're staying in the world.
Yeah, so like I just finished Unholy Sinners. Or Unholy Sins. I can't remember which one. But it's about a killer priest and a stripper. And he fucks her on the altar. It's so good.
Anywhere but a bed.
Anywhere but a bed. It's so good. It's so good. So I'm like trying to ration because there's only one more book before the new book comes out on Thursday. So I'm like, when this week can I listen to that audiobook? Because they're short. If you're an audiobook person, the audiobooks are like 8 hours.
This
short.
one was 8 hours. This one was extremely short.
Yeah, they're short. They're quick.
And I will say,
even if you read the physical copy, they're quick read.
Do you have the physical copies?
They're all on Kindle Unlimited.
But
no, I don't have the books.
Physical.
No, I really want to order them from Australia. That's where Elle is. She's in Australia and she's an indie author. So she does like self-publishing stuff. So you either have to order them from her store or like from Amazon.
I did see that the discreet covers that don't have the like ugly man on the front.
The discreet foil covers are so pretty.
And they're only available through her website. But I'd love to have one to like make videos and hold it up. But again, you have to order it all the way from over there. So I probably will. Actually, I
would like to have them at some point on my bookshelf when I have an influx of cash.
And the discreet covers are pretty.
The foil's so pretty on that.
I definitely think that the discreet covers are a little easier to get behind. I wish, as like a manga girl, that they were all animated. I'm like, I wish they were all in like manhwa style. That way, like, judging a book by its cover wasn't such a thing, because half the time I see these men on the covers and I'm just like, oh, if that's what he looks like, I ain't reading it.
I know, that's my favorite part about reading on my Kindle is that when it does have a cover like that, people don't have to. I don't have to see it, but also when I'm reading it at the bar, minding my business, reading about how a killer priest is banging a stripper, I don't have to have someone like, oh, what are you reading? Well, they'll still do that, but I'll just tell them the title and nothing more.
Yeah, just make it the fuck up. Like,
nothing more.
I'm rereading The Little Mermaid, as you can see.
It's Pride and Prejudice again.
You know me.
You know me. I'm really big into Pride and Prejudice.
But on the cover of this it's still Heath. The first book was Heath. The second book
is Liam.
It is Liam on the cover of it?
The first book is Ro. The second book is Liam, I'm pretty sure. And the third book is Heath.
Huh, on the cover? Yeah. I should pay better attention. Who was...
I'm pretty positive.
Who was, this my favorite part of the show, who is your delusional boyfriend from this series? Once you get to the second book, is Liam still your number one?
The problem is that Liam is my delusional boyfriend for this whole trilogy.
For the whole thing?
Because I've already read the whole thing.
Well,
but did yours change?
Oh, yeah.
Is yours Ro now?
Mine is definitely Ro now.
I knew yours would change.
I love Ro so much. First of all, enemies to lovers, like the bickering, the back and forth, the like snide remarks between him and May are very hot and very fun. And I love that kind of dialogue. So that was great. On top of that, he definitely is like her protector in the prison. And then outside of the prison, he has this like extreme backstory that makes him very lovable. He married a girl who was already pregnant with another man's baby and married her by the age of 23. Like, he knew what he wanted. He's a romantic. And he has been like burned before, and now he is like grieving. So I think all of that together just makes him like so dynamic of a character. Really love that. Then of course I've got my own daddy issues. So like the fact that he has this child of his own and he clearly wants a family. He's just scared to have a family. All of that was very, very good for me. And then on top of that, the fact that he's so comfortable with his sexuality and he has these feelings for Heath, and he has these feelings for May, and he's not afraid of approaching both of those feelings. Well, he is afraid that they're going to be taken away from him, but he's not afraid to admit, like, yes, I'm bisexual. And as a bisexual myself, I love a little representation in that way.
I think only in like the most recent book is really the only time that one of the men that's in like the male-male relationship is like really in denial of his sexuality. Otherwise, they're pretty much like, fuck yeah, let's go, which I really like.
I really like it.
I think that's how it should be.
And I don't love getting through a character's like internalized homophobia. Like, there's one story that ever made sense for me, and it was a character who had been like abused in their childhood, really could not come to terms with his homosexual feelings. Like, but for the most part, that's really depressing to me to just see a character continually tell himself he couldn't be in love with someone of the same gender.
Yeah, and it's sad for the other person too.
Yeah, it's sad for everybody.
Which I don't like. So she does a good job of that not being a factor. And in the one book that it is kind of a factor, they're one of my favorite male pairings, so it's fine.
It does, like, it adds to the slow burn a little bit if somebody really has never anticipated or been attracted to,
and that was
the
like
same
a
sex
late in
before.
life coming out.
Yeah. And sometimes, like, I know there's, like, a lot of people hate stories where it's like, oh, I'm just gay for you. I'm just gay for one person, because it makes it feel like that being gay is a choice. But I would say oftentimes there's like a bisexual awakening or gay awakening when there is like an extremely attractive person walks into your life you've never considered being with someone of the same sex before because nobody had ever appealed to you like that. I do think that's realistic, and I do like that kind of representation. But I really liked in this story how Ro is just like, it's not that I, didn't think I couldn't be gay. It's just that I had been married to a woman and grieving this woman, so I haven't had any feelings for anybody. Point blank. But he's such a goody two shoes. Like, he's such a follow the rules, except for the people he loves, which he'll just like full on break the law for them.
Yep.
He doesn't care. He'll risk losing his job. He'll risk losing everything for them. And that was very hot to me. Also, he's described as having like a big dick.
He has, and it's my favorite because they like in the next book, it's like a joke between the guys.
Because Ro's biggest. Oh yeah, you can tell it's biggest. And
it's like an ongoing joke. Like, oh, maybe there'd be room for all four of us in this bed without Ro's giant dick.
Oh my God, cute.
It's the best. I love it.
I love it. In this book, she like goes to have sex with Heath, and she's just like, he's really large, but it went in just fine. I'm like, no, duh, you've had sex 5 times in the last 2 days. Everything is going to fit in there just fine now. You're pretty much warmed up for 2 at this point.
Yeah.
Like, girl, I love you. The vagine is a muscle, and it does tighten back up, but no, you don't need any foreplay at this point.
Yeah.
The boys have you hot and ready at all times of the day.
Yeah.
So, yeah, absolutely love Ro. I'm a big size queen. Also, I love a man with, like, dark skin, and he's just all those things. I love a man in uniform. I like Liam, but yeah, Liam is too much of like, he needs a lot of validation. And so I'm like, okay, you get second place, because Ro, like, I don't know. He just, in this story, it was his story. He was at the forefront. You got the most out of Ro. You got Ro getting sucked off by a man like that. So yeah, he just like takes the cake on this one.
Yeah, I knew that yours would change too.
Absolutely. Well, you already said Liam doesn't quite measure up to any of your number one book boyfriend. So Cassian.
Yeah.
Still.
No regular fictional man is gonna
measure up.
I just have so many book boyfriends. But he is one of my favorite, like, non-fantasy. Extra fictional men.
Yeah, like fantasy characters.
Yeah. Like, I have my favorites, and he is one of them.
Yeah, for sure. I would definitely say these boys in this story have a chance of like dethroning Dorian, because when was the last time Dorian tried to take his woman with another man? Like, I love the fantasy couples that we know and
I'm
love.
just so excited for you, because I've been trying to get you to read Reverse Harem with me for like a year.
I know.
And I knew you would love it.
Well, yeah, I just was like completely just bored of romantasy sex. It just like, you can add in all the superpowers you want in the world, but like just like being realistic about sex and the different fun stuff you can do in sex is really interesting. And I was like, you know what? If we're ever going to talk about butt stuff, I'm going to have to be reading all like yaoi and all MM stories. And I just was not listening to you when you're like, when there's 3 dudes in the story, somebody is going to be using the back door.
Yeah, dude. There's only so many holes.
And now we're there, and I'm like, you're right. This is definitely where the spice is at. Like, everything gets a lot more heated when there's 3 dicks in a story to get jammed around. So I'm super happy that we've broken into this genre. It's absolutely a favorite
I love
of
Why
mine.
Choose. It's so fun.
I definitely like all 3 of the love interests for this story. Heath is my least favorite. Delusional boyfriend from it. I'm just like, I think May's major attraction to him is that she's had a crush on him for so long, and like he's been a part of her life.
Well, and I think the thing is that you don't get as much of his backstory because May already knows it. Yeah. So you're in her POV learning a lot about, like, you're learning about Liam, you're learning, which we'll also get more in the next book because he's not in prison anymore. So he's with them. Like, they're all together.
Yeah. And he's also described as like an older, like, mountain man, rugged type. And I'm just like, not exactly my type. Yeah. Like, I definitely like a prettier boy.
Yeah, I know, me too.
But I would say, yeah, for now, delusional boyfriend is going to be Ro, and we'll see if that changes. I'm excited to get into the other series in this universe and compare back to this one and be like, because obviously I'm really excited for Vincent's book series.
Yeah, they're very good.
Because right now I'm just like, oh, and Vincent was allowed to be like taken into account. Something about that psycho vibe is really appealing to me. I'd let him play with the knives with me in the kitchen. Like, I honest to God would. That boy's gonna get freaky deaky.
Yeah, it's good. He's good.
So my predictions for the third book are that they break out of the prison and Heath is on the run. The rest of them are keeping him in hiding, so they're like aiding and abetting him. And that they do end up finding, obviously, since it's the last book in the trilogy, they have to find who the murderer is.
Yes, there is closure on that, for sure.
And I know I've already said that I don't think it's Will, so I think somebody else will crop up who's a suspect. Maybe somebody who we've met before, who there's not been any attention on. I just am racking my mind for any characters who we have met who we're not suspicious enough of. But at this point, I don't have a lead that I feel good on.
I didn't either the first time I read it.
But I want to say it's not Will, and I want to say it's not the woman who the dad had an affair with. I want to say that it is some kind of like gang member who Jayla was familiar with for one reason or another. Okay. So that's my prediction for the third book. My other prediction would be that the four of them become a little family and adopt Ripley, and that May gets to be a mother to Ripley. I don't know if that'll all happen in the next book, but I think it will set us up to understand that that's the future that they're all going to have together, is as like this quad poly couple with Ripley as the adopted baby. So that is where I think this story is going. Do
you think anything's going to happen with Zai?
I definitely think something's going to happen with Zai. Oh, I hope Zai dies. I hope that something really bad happens to him and he gets murdered by somebody else. Person. I hope like Vincent murders him in the prison for upsetting May and upsetting Heath and them. I hope Vincent just like takes care of the problem for us. God, I really do love Vincent.
I know, he's great.
I hope in all of the books he comes in to cause stirrups.
He is a regular like sideshow character for sure, because he's like everybody's favorite. Okay. So he shows up a lot.
Okay, good. I'm very excited about that. So yeah, I do hope in the next book Vincent has a role to play, and I am hoping that role is taking out Zai. Is there anything else that I should have a prediction on? Oh, I predict double penetration.
I predict we all knew that was going to happen.
Yeah, but it has to. If it didn't,
upsetting. I would have warned you ahead of time, and it would have been a huge disappointment, and I would not have said we should read this.
Yeah, this probably wouldn't be the series that you recommended. So yeah, I do, and let's see how I predict it's going to happen. I predict it's going to be...
Who do you think is going to be the first two?
To be in her at the same time?
Yeah.
I think it's going to be... let's see here. Heath and Ro, with Liam, like you said, being the director somehow. So, like, maybe she is, like, straddling Heath and Ro is... Well, he's got the biggest dick, but sure. Ro taking her from behind, like, while she's straddling Heath. And then Liam, I don't know, maybe, like, talking her through it in her ear while he jerks off or puts it in her mouth. That's how I'm going to predict the foursome goes.
The first one.
Am I close?
There's multiple foursomes.
Well, thank God.
Book, if that makes you.
Thank God.
Yeah.
That's how I'm going to predict the first one.
Okay.
Is structured.
Okay.
Okay, I can't wait to see if I'm right. All right, well, that concludes our discussion for Solitary Sinners, Book 2 of the
St. View Prison
series, which is the first series of the 4 we're reading by Elle Thorpe. Mm-hmm. Our next book in the series, the last one of the trilogy, is Fatal Felons. So we'll be doing that March 25th is when that podcast episode will drop. Just remember, if you're here for the romance novels and not so much to the manga and the manhwa and the anime, you're always going to want to join the podcast, either here on YouTube or on on any of your favorite podcast listening channels on the 25th of the month. And Princess will always be our host for that episode. Do go follow us on our socials on TikTok and Instagram. Please subscribe to us on YouTube and share with everybody if you can. If you rate and review, it helps other people find our podcast so we can keep growing the community bigger. So please do that as well. And until next time, remember, sometimes the delusion
is the solution.
Bye.